The British government is supporting the release of Axel Rudakubana against the begging of the Member of Parliament for Southport. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe, but more importantly, hit the bell notification icon. It's the best way to absolutely guarantee you get all my videos as soon as they are released. There's a guy called Maurice Glassman, Lord Glassman, who has said that the Attorney General of the United Kingdom, the man I call Richard Hermer, but you know as Richard Hermer, should be sacked on the grounds that he does not believe in democracy. He believes in the rule of lawyers, even though he claims to believe in the rule of law. That is to say that no moral decision will ever have any morality to it. There will be no politics. There will be no democracy. Just a group of lawyers all sitting together, debating amongst themselves the legality of everything according to European law. Well, Richard Hermer, as you know, has been, throughout his career, an ambulance chaser to teas. Now, by the way, I just want to say to you once again, YouTube go crazy about the use of any word that they might find offensive. So I'm going to have to talk about teas. I'm going to have to talk about dial M for, you know, and all that sort of thing. It drives me absolutely bananas. But otherwise, it takes me days to get my videos out the door because they start complaining. Anyway, so he is somebody who was an ambulance chaser for the Tees. He supported Shamima Begum. He supported Gerry Adams. He officially says that he is subject to what's called the taxi system. That is to say that barristers are obliged to take whichever the next case to come through the door of their chambers is. That's not true in reality. Hermer's a liar. What actually happens is this. Barristers' chambers have a relationship with certain solicitors, and those solicitors will specialise in certain fields and pass their clients to whichever barristers' chambers they believe are most effective or would be most effective in the case when it goes to court. And of course, the people that represent Tees as solicitors know to go to Richard Hermer and his people because they're the experts in getting you off if you've committed some of the most heinous crimes in this country. And of course, he is very, very good at his job and has made an absolute fortune out of it. By the way, he's been in trouble because he's not recused himself, even though he's supposed to be impartial, but he's worked on there's now the Afghan inquiry. He's obviously worked towards that, but also, as I said earlier, the government now has decided to pay compensation to Gerry Adams. As we all know, Gerry Adams is a T. He is somebody who has ordered M's across the country. He was a member of the IRA. The reason I'm saying all this, by the way, is that Gerry Adams will not sue me for any of this. He just won't publicly admit it himself. As far as he's concerned, this was some sort of a conflict, and therefore he had a right to be a T and do the M's that he did. I know it sounds stupid given these euphemisms, but okay. So on to Axel Rudakubana. So he's received 52 years in prison, and Richard Hermer has decided that he's not going to appeal that decision despite the demands of others. And here is what Richard Hermer said. After careful consideration of independent legal advice, i.e. his old mates from the chamber who support Tees, with leading criminal barristers and the Crown Prosecution Service, I've concluded that the case cannot properly be referred to the Court of Appeal, that is to appeal the sentence for being lenient. No one would want the families to be put through an unnecessary further court process, and there is no realistic legal basis for an increased sentence. The 52-year sentence imposed by the judge was the second longest imposed in the courts in English history. Rudakubana will likely never be released and will spend the rest of his life in jail, etc., etc. Now, it is true to say that 52 years is the minimum that Axel Rudakubana could serve. And also, remember, he is somebody who is likely to not last that long. And just to explain to you, I'm not allowed to encourage anybody to commit any criminality, but I'm not duty bound to discourage it either. And so what I'd say to you is, please follow my lead in that, by the way. What I would say to you is, it's a perfect right of anybody to fail to comment on something. So I'm going to fail to comment on what might happen to him in prison. Certainly, I'm not going to discourage it. Sorry, I'm not going to discourage it at all. Why would I want to do that? But we'll see what happens to him. However, I think there's a really important point here. In theory, Rudakubana could be released when he's 70 years old. Now, if I was a parent and say the parents will probably be about my age, early to mid 40s, something like that. Well, realistically, I'm not going to be alive in 52 years' time. So I can never absolutely guarantee in my lifetime that the person that emmed my child is not going to get out of prison. And I think that puts undue stress onto the families. So forget whether he's likely or unlikely to ever come out of prison. It's how you feel personally. I don't believe for 1 second that there is a problem putting the families through all of this. What will happen now with Axel Rudakubana, I absolutely guarantee you, is this. It's what happens with all of them. Anjam Chowdhury, Shamima Begum, Jerry Adams, all of these people. Hermer's old crew will go out and take as many legal actions as they possibly can. What about the £250,000 that we spent on Levi Belfield's wedding? So Levi Belfield sued the British government saying that he wants to get married in prison, and we opposed it, or the government opposed it. And then all of these lawyers, as usual, moved in order to help him. That is what happens time and time again. These people dine out on all of this. But I want to tell you something that David Starkey keeps making the point, and I think it's something that Maurice Glasman referred to when I quoted him, or half quoted him earlier. It's this idea now that we live in a country, thanks to Lord Bingham, Richard Bingham, which is no longer ruled by democracy. It's run by rule of law. Have you heard it? How many times have you heard them say, this decision's too important to be made political? These are people who disdain democracy, disdain freedom, and want to be ruled by a small elite of lawyers arguing about what's going on. That is what Richard Hermer's ultimate aim is. He's not bothered about Axel Rudakubana being in prison or out of prison or 3 bags full. He's interested in the idea of rule of lawyers. And we need to move away from that. We need to go back to one very simple thing. The Home Secretary being able to keep you in prison for as long as he or she likes, at His Majesty's pleasure. Many of you younger people watching this won't remember that. So what would happen is people sentenced to life imprisonment would serve at His Majesty's pleasure. That meant that the King would release you whenever the King fancied releasing you. You would have no further legal rights than that. And of course, that power was discharged by the Home Secretary. As you might imagine, they would discharge it. That's what we need to go back to. But now we have this airy-fairy thing where it's all decided by the courts. I guarantee you that Rudakubana will do what they all do. He'll sit in his cell with a load of legal books, trying to come up with ways to irritate the rest of us, all at your expense. And all of those people, Gareth Peirce, remember her? It's not to be shown to defence. Do you remember that on In the Name of the Father? Yeah, well, that's Gareth Peirce. And of course, Bindmans and all these people will all be ambulance chasing after Axel Rudakubana, and they'll make a ton of money representing him to get married, to do whatever it is, to be released early. He will continue to harass the family forever. Personally, I'd have given him the rope because I think that's the most humane thing to do to somebody like that. But anyway, it's time to put him in prison for life, change the law back to His Majesty's pleasure. Until next time, goodbye.